Hey friends, welcome back to She's At It Again. My name's Tanya, and just bear with me here. This recipe is called cream cheese sausage over squash. Now trust me, I put a recipe in our local publication, which I do. It's just we live in a small town. It's not that we're famous or anything, but I put the recipe in there, and the first words I put in there were, if I were shopping for something really interesting and really yummy to make, this would not capture my attention, especially the name of it. It just sounds so unappealing. But I promise you, the fact that it is so easy, so few ingredients, and it's so little hands-on, just that part itself, I hope piques your interest. But this recipe is so good, particularly on a cold day, and you need something really warm and something substantial, filling, and something everybody will enjoy. It's gluten-free. Hopefully that captures someone's attention out there. But trust me when I say, this is such a pleasant surprise to make this. You'll get those people who say, I do not eat squash. They will become squash lovers. Now these are butternut squash, and I got these at our local Good Measure Market because they sell organic ones. I am so pleased when I go in there and find something that I can't find in another store in our local little town at our local grocers. So the first thing you want to do is, we're going to jump right into this recipe. First thing you want to do is wash these really well, because I just don't know who's touched them. Not necessarily the people at the market, but before that, I know they get handled a lot, but I do that with most of my produce. So we're just going to wash these, and we're going to put these in a slow cooker. So there's your hands-off part right there. We're going to put these in a slow cooker. And if it's warm in your house, too warm to have something going in there, by all means put it outside. But right now it's winter and it's rather cool. So we're going to plug these in, plug our crock pot or slow cooker in right here in the kitchen. There's some more of my plug mold up here in my kitchen. Someday I'm going to show you where all my cool plug mold is in my kitchen. When our house burned about 18 years ago, I got to redo the whole kitchen, so I had some pretty fun things put in there. That might be something fun to put in a video. Okay, so for right now, just take these butternut squash, wash them off, and we're going to just plop them, just dry butternut squash, no oil, no water, no nothing. Put them in your slow cooker. Just fit them in there like that. We'll put the lid on it. You can cook these for 4 hours on low or on high, or 6 hours on low. So I'm going to turn it on low, and we're going to cook these for 6 hours. Now by the end of that 6 hours, these are going to be soft. We're going to split them in half lengthwise, gently take out the seeds, save those for my friend's chickens, and these will be ready to eat. But the next thing we're going to do is make our filling to go on top of these, and you're going to be surprised about that too. We're going to learn how to make homemade sausage from scratch all over again. I did that in a video about a year ago, but hey, it's been a year ago. We'll do this again. So let's go make some sausage and some filling for this that we'll have for later. We are back and on the other side of the kitchen now. It's still in the morning. I won't need this until dinner time tonight, but I'm mixing up the sausage. We're making the sausage from scratch. I want to show you how to do that, but we don't really need to cook it until later on this evening, right before my husband comes home from work, and the squash will be done. We're going to make it all at that time. First thing we want to do is take our package of ground pork. That's what this looks like. It looks like ground beef. You can use ground turkey or ground chicken, feel free, because it will taste about the same. It'll have a little bit different consistency because pork just has more fat in it. All right, open that up and set it aside. First thing we want to do is put our spices in our bowl. We're going to need a tablespoon. Well, okay, let me start out by saying this is about 1.5 pounds. So for every pound, I have a recipe for 1 pound of pork. So I'm going to just multiply that by 1.5. So I better get a tablespoon. I didn't account for that when I started getting my stuff out. So For a pound of pork, we're gonna need a tablespoon of dry rubbed sage. So we're gonna use a tablespoon and a half. If I get too much sage, I am not even gonna be upset about it because I love a lot of sage in my sausage. A pound of sausage needs a teaspoon of salt, so we're gonna use a teaspoon and a half of salt. For to make 1 pound of sausage, we'll need a half teaspoon of black pepper, so we're going to use 3/4 of a teaspoon of black pepper. Likewise, it calls for a half teaspoon of ground marjoram, and this is not the label, obviously. This is just what I wrote on my jar, so I'll know what it is. And I'm reading this off my iPad over here because it's, like I said, it's a recipe I sent into our local publication for our small town. So we'll need 3/4 of a teaspoon of ground marjoram. I've never bought marjoram in my life until I started making sausage from scratch, and now I keep it here on a regular basis because I will not buy store-bought sausage anymore. I just can't do it because the ingredients are so sketchy and it just has so much fat in it. This does not have hardly any fat in it. You won't have that puddle of grease in your skillet after you cook it. It's just quite amazing. Okay, the recipe for 1 pound calls for 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground cayenne pepper. So just a little bit more than that. I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it. Lacey's over there ringing the bell to get out the door. Every time I let her out the door, she comes right back in. Okay, this is the cayenne pepper. And then just a pinch of crushed red pepper is what we need. So maybe a pinch and a half. And what I like to do is add just a teeny tiny bit of water in here because that's going to help that salt dissolve. It doesn't affect the taste or texture or anything of the sausage itself, but I like knowing that it's all mixed up. I kind of make it into a paste and then add my ground meat into it. And I just feel like I'm not going to get a blob of salt somewhere and then the other areas be lacking in it. I have to give a shout out, it wouldn't be fair if I didn't, to the person that actually introduced me to this recipe, and she didn't do it on purpose. I saw her on YouTube, so it's like everything else. That's where everybody finds everything, I guess. But the reason I started watching this gal on her YouTube channel was because I used to order from Azure Standard a lot. I ordered a lot of bulk things from there, and it's such a very, very neat company. If you've never checked them out, just go to their website, Azure Standard, and they are located in the Pacific Northwest. And one time we vacationed up there and actually drove up to their farm, and it was almost like driving up to Graceland and seeing Elvis. I just went, I can't believe I'm up here. This is so exciting. And my husband's looking at me like, you are a nut. This is a farm with nothing else in it. The area was so beautiful though, but I thought, man, I've been ordering from these people for so long. I feel like I need to walk up and introduce myself to them. And at that point, we'd have probably been living there in the nut house, but I didn't get out of the car. I just admired the scenery from afar, but it was a really beautiful place. So anyway, I started watching this gal because she was doing an Azure Standard haul, and what that means, if you're not familiar with that, is that they order their Azure Standard stuff, they go to pick it up, they bring it home, they put it out on the counter, and they show you what all they got. And I didn't even know she was a local person, but I started watching her because I wanted to see what she buys from Azure, and I find that interesting to see what other people get. And it kind of gives me ideas of what maybe I should be ordering too. So the more she talked, the more I thought, she kind of sounds like me, even though I don't have an accent. I do not have an accent. My husband laughs at me for saying that. I do not have an accent. So I got to listening to her, and she was showing all her items, and kind of find out she just lives about maybe 20 minutes from me, which I thought was kind of fun. So I started watching a few of her videos. They're interesting. They're a sweet family. They have a farm, but it's called VW Family Farms, I think is the name of her website, or what name of her Azure, I'll get this out in a minute, her YouTube channel. And her name is Andrea, but I messaged her directly and I told her, I kind of changed up your recipe just a bit because she they raise pigs and they have their pigs processed, and the processor makes their sausage, but I just make my sausage from scratch. But I let her know I was going to be putting that recipe in our local publication, and she was real sweet in her response to it. But Andrea from VW Family Farms is the one that came up with this recipe, and she was just kind of doing it just on the fly because her family was real tired one day, and she came and just kind of threw it together. And I thought, well, good grief, if she's tired and can do it, I can sure do it. But she did not make her butternut squash in the crock pot. I think she roasted it in the oven or something, but we'll bypass that because I'd rather let the slow cooker take care of my cooking for me on a day like today. So all we're going to do is mix this up, and like I said, we're going to put it in our cast iron skillet and cook it later on. We'll be adding our cream cheese to it, and that will be all of the ingredients right there. I'm not even kidding when I say that. Now, if you want to use the entire 1.5 pounds for a couple of butternut squash, that's fine. Normally, I use 1 pound of sausage for 2 butternut squash like that, but those are kind of small. So I may reserve part of this sausage for something else, like, I don't know, some kind of pizza or something. I'm always finding something to use leftovers with, but I'll put it in a container and stick it in the freezer and find something to use it for. So none of this ever goes to waste. But like I said, I've done a recipe. I think that was one of my first recipes that I did, was how to make homemade sausage. And then we made, I think, a sausage sauerkraut casserole with it. One of the very first videos I made on YouTube about a year ago. And I just figured, you know what, it's been a year. Maybe nobody saw that, so I just want to show you again because this is something I make on a regular basis. I keep sausage patties made with this in my freezer. I just take and scoop them out with a cookie dough scoop on a little, like a 3x3 square of parchment, and I put another piece of parchment over that and then press it down, and I put those in a zip top bag in the freezer, and that's what I use for breakfast sausage. They're a little bit thinner than what you would normally make by buying a roll of sausage, but nevertheless they are fabulous. And like I said, there's very little fat in this, so that's one of the bonuses in making it from scratch. There's not near as much waste. If you consider how much you pay for a roll of store-bought sausage versus this, you pay a lot of money for grease that you're just discarding when you buy store-bought sausage. Okay, I'm going to put my handy dandy shower cap over the bowl, and we're going to stick this in the fridge. We'll come back and cook this later on this afternoon, and I'll invite you to come with me, so we'll see you in just a bit. We're going to get started cooking our sausage now. I have my skillet heated up. It is right now just before 4:30. So normally my husband comes in around, I don't know, between 5 and 6. We just never know. It's always just playing it by ear. All right, we have our sausage made. Remember, our sausage in our bowl. For you, it's just been a few seconds ago, but for me, it's been all day. My husband commented the other day, "That's a good bowl to use in that video." And I said, yeah, that's why I was looking for a glass bowl just the right size for so long. And that's why I used it, because you, as my friends out there, can see actually what I have in the bowl instead of just being a big mystery. And I can't remember which video he was talking about. Maybe the, no, I don't actually know. I thought I was going to say something that, like the cinnamon rolls or honey rolls or something, but I don't think it was that. Anyway, the clear glass bowl works good, and when I can use that, I normally take advantage of it. Okay, so we're just going to cook this just like you would any ground beef or ground meat. Kind of chopping it up as we go. I don't want any big chunks in it. And I'm going to take out about 1/3 of this and put in this glass container to use for something else later, because 8 ounces of cream cheese works really well with 1 pound of this sausage, but you get more than 1 pound of it, and then you got to add more cream cheese to it. And we certainly don't want our cream cheese to be off, now do we? if we were cooking store-bought sauce, if we were cooking 1.5 pounds, I should say, of store-bought, just packaged, you know, how the roll of sausage, breakfast sausage is in that plastic package. If we were cooking 1.5 pounds of that in this skillet, there would probably be grease in there about that deep. In this skillet, with this meat, there is so little grease. It's quite remarkable. Let's see if I can show this to you from there. Right in that area. That is like almost a dry skillet. So that's why we make our own sausage. That and the fact that you know what ingredients are in there. You don't have to guess if there's something that's less than 5% of the volume of it, because manufacturers, producers don't have to add that into their ingredient list here in the US if it's less than 5%. So you could have things like flavor enhancers, which would be monosodium glutamate. You could have preservatives. You could have sugar. It's really hard to find. It's just difficult at best to find a breakfast bulk sausage that does not have sugar in it. And to save my neck, as my Nana used to say, I do not understand why there is sugar in it. It is just not needed. It does not give it any better flavor whatsoever. I'm kind of baffled by that. Normally I can look at something and go, okay, I get that. That plays off of that. That makes that work better. But the sugar part, nope. And there's, of course, obviously a huge percentage of fat in there. But I think if you go through the effort of buying the sausage, and like I said, you can cook it up or leave it raw and make it into patties ahead of time, save yourself so much time when it comes to actually cooking it. Okay, we're just going to continue to let this cook, and we'll come back over here and add our cream cheese to it in just a bit. But right now, let's go over there on the other side of the kitchen, and we'll slice up our butternut squash that's cooked. Okay, back on the other side of the kitchen here. We got two curious dogs. It's about time for Daddy to be home, and they keep running to the back door. It's not here yet, but it's going to happen eventually. He's going to pull in the garage, and they're going to start barking like crazy. Okay, let's see if I can grab these out of here. I just turned this down on warm about 2 hours ago. So it had been on low for several hours, but because these are so small, it really didn't need to cook that long. Okay, lengthwise, we're going to cut these in half. We're going to scoop the seeds out to give to our chicken friends. These are so much easier to work with when they're cooked rather than when they're raw. If you've ever peeled a butternut squash, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Man, that is just a sticky mess, and it gets all over your hands, and your hands are orange for a while. You don't necessarily have to dig for these. You just kind of scoop them out. Oops. That's not going in. Get out of there. Okay, got that one cleaned out. I don't know if I'm going to have room for all 4 of these pieces on this, because this squash is bigger. Sometimes when it touches the slow cooker, it gets a spot like that on it, but that's okay. That's going to be on the outside, and that's not the part we're going to eat. These slice so beautifully, just so easy. It does have some liquid coming out though, so you gotta be aware of that or it'll run all over your countertop. Pick that little stem off. Butternut squash, if you've never had it, has a slight sweetness to it, but it's not like you're biting into a piece of pumpkin pie or anything like that. But it does have a good creamy texture to it. All right, I'm going to scoop the seeds out of that, but leave this one here on the cutting board because I don't have enough room for it in my pan, and that's quite all right. I could always put it in a different container because we'll probably have it for leftover anyway. Okay, I think that's all in there. All right, let's go to the other side of the kitchen and we'll put our cream cheese in our sausage mixture. This is our block of cream cheese. I'll show you what the package looks like. If you can see that. I love my Kroger store, even though I have to drive over 30 minutes to get to it, which is not a big deal if you live in a big city, but this is a completely different town down the road. Our little Kroger got closed down a couple of years ago, and man, we miss it. So I've made sure all my sausage is completely cooked all the way through. There's no pink left in it. And, oh, I want to give you a look at the skillet too. You'll be surprised how little fat. Let me scoot this out of the way. Oops, get it back in there. Ugh. All right, I'm gonna give you a look at this. Hopefully you can see this. This is not even, I mean, this is moisture from it, but that's not fat right there. You can see that. So, but if this were regular packaged sausage from the supermarket, there'd be loads of fat. You'd be having to drain this stuff. And if you have that kind of sausage, if you don't want to do the homemade, that's fine. But just make sure you drain all that fat off of it, because that would not be good on your squash. Okay, we're just going to cook this until that cream cheese softens, and we're going to stir it into there, and then we'll come back, dish it out into our squash, and I'll show you what that looks like. So we'll be right back. Are y'all yelling at the screen because I forgot to put the sausage in the other container? I'm going to do that right now. I don't have cream cheese on all of it. I'll use the part that didn't touch it. And I even put that bowl right there in front of the cream cheese so I would get it before I got to the cream cheese. Did that work? No. I'm on a mission to get that cream cheese in there. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if you had some with the cream cheese on it. That's just not my goal. Okay, so I know for a fact these containers right here hold about a half pound of sausage. We'll let that cool off before we put the lid on. Okay, now I'm gonna turn the camera off. We're gonna let this cook down to where the cream cheese is melted, and we'll get it all stirred in, and we'll be right back. I turned the light off over here because, see, when I turn it on, it's a glare, and my husband will go, "The light's too bright on top of the stove." Yes, I know that. That's the Benefit light. We're gonna turn that burner off right there. Our mixture is done. This basically looks like a really, really sausagey sausage gravy. And that's kind of sort of what it is. All right, we're just gonna dish that out. Y'all, I want y'all to look at this. Does that look like 4 little chubby babies squished in a bed right there? Isn't that the funniest thing? I thought I wasn't gonna put it all in there, but I thought, you know what? Let's just go ahead and put it all in there. And I just squished them together so it looks like 4 little orange chubby babies laying in a squished together in a bed, making them fit. All right, we're gonna fill the cavities of where the seeds came out first, and then we'll kind of put the mixture over all the rest of it. Because you're basically going to serve each person one of these halves of butternut squash. Not that they'll not want more, because they probably will, but you'll serve the halves just like they are, and each person will just eat it out of the shell itself. They're not gonna consume the outer shell of it or the peel of the butternut squash, but rather just the inside of it. And I'm telling you, I don't blame you if you're sitting there going, "That looks disgusting. I'm not trying that." I beg of you, please reconsider. This is so incredibly good. I wish I could explain how good it is. And I know I say that about a lot of things, but hey, if you've ever tried anything off my channel, it is good, right? But this will not disappoint, I promise you. Between the flavor of that really fabulous, I mean, we're talking superior sausage, and then the cream cheese on top of that, and the just slightly, ever so slightly, sweetness of the butternut squash. It is absolutely perfect. So I have my stove, or my oven, set to warming. So I'm going to put these in there, and we're going to wait for Mr. She's At It Again to get home. And it'll be warm and ready to eat, and I'm serving a shaken ranch salad with it. And if you have not seen the recipe for that, or basically the just how-to, it's more than anything of that, we will link the video to that so you can take a look at that. That's what we're having with this. But for right now, I wanted you to get a look at this. I'll try to do a thumbnail picture of it on a serving plate when we get ready to eat, but sometimes I just forget. I just do. That's just part of it. Okay, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to sharing something again with you real soon. You gotta try this. You just gotta. Okay, bye guys.